And if you want to see the how we get to our Bitcoin price target, which is more than $1 million per Bitcoin in 2030, you will see in Big Ideas 2022 how we populate that, and it's all very reasonable. If you look at how we get there, it's like we're not making any extreme assumptions. The biggest assumption is that this is a really important insurance policy for everyone in the world. So it's a very big idea.
ARK Invest CEO Cathie Wood has been a longtime supporter of Bitcoin. The CEO had taken the bold step and become one of the first managers of a public fund to actually support the digital asset openly. ARK Invest had gone on to make some investments related to the cryptocurrencies, such as buying shares of Coinbase, the first crypto exchange to go public, and holding significant shares in the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, GBTC. Now, the CEO has once more reiterated her belief in the long-term potential of the digital asset. Over the last year, Cathie Wood has had some very bullish stances on Bitcoin. This has seen the CEO reveal some very interesting forecasts for the digital asset. In 2021, Cathie Wood said that she believed the price of Bitcoin was going to hit $500,000 in 5 years. This was when the bull run was in full swing and the digital asset had actually already hit multiple new all-time highs. Despite the decline in the price of the digital asset since that time, the CEO is back once more to reiterate her bullish stance on the cryptocurrency. Speaking on the What Bitcoin Did podcast, Wood presented her bullish case for the digital asset once more. According to the ARK Invest CEO, she believes that the Bitcoin price will reach $1 million in 2030. Now, this is not the first time that Wood would be giving this exact forecast. Speaking at the Bitcoin 2022 conference in Miami earlier this year, Wood had given this exact same prediction. She explained that this is because institutions were starting to move into the market, which would give it the push it needed to beat such prices. Before we listen to Cathie Wood, please take a moment to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you are yet to do so.
So when we started ARK, we had 4 technology platforms: genomic sequencing, robotics, energy storage, and then next generation internet. Brett Winton, our director of research, when we were at AllianceBernstein together, was occasionally bringing into our brainstorm on Fridays this thing called Bitcoin. So that really started in 2011. We started ARK in 2014. I guess we had gone through Mt. Gox, and so we said, okay, let's start with next generation internet. And as time went on and we did our research on Bitcoin, and the first paper we wrote was in 2015, and it was in collaboration with Art Laffer. And so I said, Art, I want you to take this paper, Can Bitcoin Serve the 3 Roles of Money? And I want you to tear it apart. Now, Art is known for his fiscal policy expertise, but his mentor was Robert Mundell, who won a Nobel Prize for his monetary theory. And he was very involved in bringing the euro together. So I don't know how people feel about that these days, but nonetheless.
I'm glad we're not part of it.
Yes, there you go. So then, so Art did rip it apart, and which was fantastic. And he came back to us and he said, I've been looking for this ever since we went off the gold exchange standard. He said, it's a rules-based monetary policy, rules-based monetary system. And I said, and he said, I may not agree with the rule, because he was thinking more in terms of inflation. So you'd want a price rule as opposed to store of value, which quantity. He says, but it's okay. It's a rule, and we need to get back to this. And I said to him, Art, how big could this be? And he said, well, how big is the U.S. monetary base? Now, Bitcoin was $250 at that time. So it was roughly a $6 billion network value or market cap. And I said, he said, how's the monetary? I said, it's $4.5 trillion. He said, there's your answer. I said, really? And I immediately, I put a lot of money, especially our analyst, Chris Berniski at the time.
Hello, Chris.
You know Chris.
Yeah.
So our analyst, he was the one really doing the work on the paper, and hand selected Yassine, which has made us very happy. But he Your question again, I lost that.
What was your moment where you realized, which you've explained?
So I put, I don't think I've ever disclosed this before, but I put $100,000 in.
$250.
Yeah.
I don't know how many Bitcoin that is. What's that, 400 Bitcoin?
I don't even know. And I wasn't counting at the time, but and I've kept it all, but because as soon as he said that, the
You did
light
that
bulb
personally
went on.
or with the fund?
Couldn't do it with the fund because we had to find a security. And so this thing called GBTC, which everybody knows now is Grayscale Bitcoin Investment Trust, that had the 1-year holding period, and they were just cycling through that.
Sorry, this is the rules of your fund. It means you can't
Yes,
buy
ETFs
directly.
can only own securities. Yes. And so we had to find one. And we found Grayscale. Actually, Grayscale was one block away from us in Chelsea.
Nice.
And so they opened their books, and we had to go to the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, we had to do so much to get Bitcoin in. So we put it in ARKW, our next generation internet fund first, and then we put it into ARKK, which is the flagship fund. But and Chris, when he saw me do that, all of a sudden he felt so much more responsible. He did anyway, but 100,000 is like, okay, she just did that, and she did it off my research and so forth. So it was. He doubled down as well. So, I mean, it's a great story because, well, it ended well, right? It isn't hard for me to explain.
Okay.
I mean, when you have conviction in something as a necessary innovation, to help solve some of the world's problems. And I've had, my background is both economics and finance. So, I feel very confident in what I'm saying. This is the first global, private, meaning no government oversight, digital, rules-based monetary system. When I'm explaining it like that, I ask everyone to listen to each of those words. Each one of them is very important. And this is one of the most profound innovations of our time. So my conviction, and it's born out of our research, it's born out of great research that Yassine, Frank, and David are doing now, as well as what Chris has done, and the community largely. So there's no doubt in my mind. And, many people think that I'm too confident in not just with Bitcoin, but all of our strategies. We face the same kind of pushback with all of our innovation strategies. This is nothing new. This feels the same. It's a little different to explain, but it's not a company, so more finance, but it's a monetary system, which is economics, and I'm comfortable in both of those zones. We get questions all the time. I think people love to hear our take on, excuse me, but crypto broadly.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
So, but what we talk about is, in the way I just described Bitcoin, that's the money revolution. And then we have the financial services revolution, DeFi, a little more centralized, and then we have the next generation internet revolution around digital property rights. And I realize all of these involve property rights, but when you're talking about the creator economy and the blending of consumption and investment, it's probably even more centralized and in that third bucket. I think when people hear us describe this new world, especially young people, it hits a responsive chord. And the young people are bringing their parents into it. So that's an interesting dynamic. That really hasn't happened in my career before.
Right.
Yes. And they're bringing ARK to their parents as well.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, we're very excited. I think a lot of people look at ARK and say, and think that we're on the defensive. We are on the offense. And in a couple of ways, we've just launched a crossover public-private venture fund. And it's our first social distribution strategy. So it'll be distributed on something called the Titan app, which is Andreessen Horowitz funded company. And more germane to our conversation here is we're launching two new strategies. They're separately managed accounts. So strategies, one focused on cryptocurrencies, and of course, Bitcoin's going to dominate that.
Yep.
There are going to be very few real currencies. And then the other one is more across crypto assets and the three revolutions I mentioned, and it will be actively managed. We think there's going to be a lot of opportunity to add alpha if you're using Bitcoin as your base, or whatever you want as your benchmark, with a crypto asset strategy spanning across the three revolutions.
In the past, Wood has said that her firm believes that the entrance of institutional investors into Bitcoin would be the main driving force behind its price. Back then, Wood explained that even if just 5% of institutional money were to move into the digital asset, it would surpass the $500,000 level, which she believes would happen by 2030. Another reason given for this is the protection that Bitcoin provides to investors. Over the years, there have been impacts on accumulated wealth on the part of investors due to the increase in inflation. Wood says Bitcoin has become an insurance policy for investors worldwide, which is why she believes it is going to $1 million. My background is both economics and finance, so I feel very confident in what I'm saying. This is the first global private, meaning no government oversight, digital rules-based monetary system. When I'm explaining it like that, I ask everyone to listen to each of those words. Each one of them is very important. This is one of the most profound innovations of our time. Wood is not the only one at ARK Invest who seems convinced of the growing power of Bitcoin. The CEO explained that the price target is from the research arm of ARK Invest, which has taken many factors into account before coming up with this number. What do you make of Cathie Wood's prediction? Here at Savvy Finance, we strongly believe that Bitcoin will get to $1 million someday. Have you been buying the dip? Thanks for watching and stay savvy till our next video.